Good morning. Good morning. Oh, that's so much better. To God be the glory for all the great things he has done. I am just kind of almost overwhelmed to be at this moment in this building at this time and with the people who are in this room. What an awesome ride it has been. And I do mean ride. We have, well, first of all, let me just honor my colleagues who are in the room who will not grace the podium today. That is the Council President, Darius Pridgeon, Maston District Council Member Ulysses Wingo, Erie County Legislative Chairwoman April Baskin, and Erie County Legislator Howard Johnson. We're so happy that you all have joined us today. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. And it's even more beautiful because of the women who are in the room. And I don't want to say that disparagingly, because our Commissioner Higgins is here with us, and so is our governor. And I also want to give, a lot of honor to Melissa Wigglesworth, who runs this place and makes it happen every day. She is joined by her board chair, Dave Bush. Thank you so much for being here as well. I could spend a long time talking about the history of how this all came to be and the struggles that went in to making it happen. I do at this time want to honor Lumen Ross and Chuck Eaton, who have gone on before us, but I am confident the smiles from heaven are smiling down on us today. So I want to certainly be happy that we're at this point, but I know that in order to get things like this done, it takes a lot of people and a lot of work, a lot of dissension, a lot of cooperation, and a lot of advice sometimes when you don't even want it. I am intrigued by the fact that we're in this Science Museum, which is one of the most beautiful assets, and there are many of them in Buffalo, but this is one of them that we have in our community. And I noticed that this has been a theme for a while around here, and it's a good question. Why? Why? Why do we have to go backwards to rectify things that were torn down? Why do people make decisions that maybe not intentionally, but ultimately destroy people's lives? Why? That's a hard question to answer, because none of us were here when that beautiful parkway was torn up, destroyed. Some of the people and their ancestors may be still here when Woodline was cut off, and they didn't have the ability to go from Jefferson, which is a commercial strip that got decimated, to Fillmore, which is a commercial strip that got decimated. Glenwood was cut off. All of these things not only destroyed people's lives, but it destroyed the economy of the east side of Buffalo. And again, when I ask myself the question why, I gotta believe that people didn't intend necessarily to do that. But sometimes when you're making decisions about what impacts we'll have on a community, you have to do a real community impact. You have to talk to the people. You have to understand the economy. Just like we do environmental impact studies for why we need to restore things, we need to do environmental impact studies before we take things down too. We really do need to do that a little bit better. And it's my hope that as an elected person in the responsibility to try to help make some of these decisions happen, I don't think any other decisions should be made unless we weigh in what impact will it have on the people who live there. And not immediately, but in the long term. That's due diligence. That's the kind of work that we have to do. And by the way, that's the kind of leader that we have now as governor, who will make a lot of really great calls, but it's all about how it impacts the people who live in and around the immediate areas. if it's education, if it's healthcare, if it's transportation issues, if it's construction issues, no matter what it is, the passionate woman that we have as our governor will think, how does this impact the people in the state of New York before I make this decision? For that reason, I am super proud to have her as the first woman ever in the history of New York State to be the governor, Kathy Hochul. And let me just say this is no disrespect to anybody else that has served. By the way, God bless you, thank you for your service. But now you will see how service really looks. It's an action word. It's an action word. It's doing something, not talking about it. It's doing something, and that's why we're here today, because our governor, Kathy Hochul, has decided to move this from a conversation to action. That's the why we're here today, because of Kathy Hochul. So it is my pleasure and my honor to bring her to the podium. I have known her since 1998. Her passion, her friendliness, her values, her principles, her steadfastness, her grit, her Buffalo grit has never changed, and it never will. I'm honored to know her and honored to work with her. Kathy Hochul.
Thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Good morning, Buffalo. Kind of a fun weekend coming up, isn't there? Yeah, we'll talk about that, but I do want to acknowledge how special it is to be here. Last night when I was flying back from New York City so I could be with you this morning, I did receive some very tragic news about individuals, members of law enforcement, who were shot responding to a domestic call in Harlem, where my lieutenant governor lives. He immediately went over to the hospital on my behalf, and I spoke with him and was texting with the mayor, and I just want to say this breaks our hearts all over the state, and this has happened with far too much frequency. It is something that, our hearts and prayers are with the families and the members of the NYPD, but also it's a resounding call to action to say those in Washington who will not heed the call, whether it was the children of Sandy Hook who were slaughtered in their classroom and continue up to this day, we have to do more to fight the scourge of illegal guns on our streets, and we need Washington teaming up with us, teaming up with locals to get it done. And I know Congressman Higgins, this is a passion of his, and I want to thank you for fighting the good fight, Congressman. And if we could only get the others to open up their hearts to realize that it does not have to be this way, because these guns, despite our tough laws here in the state of New York, and we're proud of them, they're coming in from other states. They're flooding our streets. And I have pledged the resources of the New York State Police to become embedded with NYPD and others to help them. In fact, we've tripled, just a week ago in our budget, tripling of funding for this gun interdiction effort, because they're coming in from Virginia and Maryland and coming in from Pennsylvania to our very streets. And we have to do whatever we can to protect our neighborhoods. So we are all grieving as New Yorkers. We are all grieving today. So please keep them in your prayers as we continue to find ways to deal with gun violence in all of our cities and also throughout our state. So our hearts are with them. It's also a weekend we talk about our infection rates. I'm going to just do a little, I don't want to say a commercial announcement, but it is a very good day to be able to say that we're starting to see the downward trend in COVID infections. Western New York and upstate have lagged a little behind, but we saw that coming. New York was hit hardest first, and we knew that they would start seeing a downward trend sooner, a downward trend, and not just in infections, but also in the hospitalizations, something I talked to our local leaders, particularly our county executive, we talk about it on speed dial, and I want to thank him for his steadfast leadership through this pandemic, because we have talked nonstop about how we can protect people here, but also increase our hospital capacity, something we've been continuing to fight to do. So we are seeing improvements. Erie County is down. Our positivity statewide, the second day in a row, we've been under 10%. I'm telling you, 2 months ago, we would have said 10%, sound the alarms. But when we have 23% statewide a few weeks ago, this is extraordinary progress, and it's coming our way here. So So that is what we're doing here today, as well as my chance to say hello to all the elected officials who I have such respect for. And to have, and I hope you all recognize that this is a very big deal, to have the majority leader of the New York State Assembly, our very own Crystal Peoples-Stokes, is a source of power and might that you do not want to underestimate, because when she wants something done, here we are. And I want to thank her for all she does and her friendship for many, many years as we've been in the trenches together in local government and moving upwards as well. Also, as I mentioned, our Congressman Brian Higgins. It was a decade ago we sat together in Congress, and sometimes we just shook our heads and said, what are they doing? But you have been in there fighting on the front lines to bring quality health care and good jobs to Western New York, and to make sure that we make the right decisions and undo the wrongs of the past. So thank you for just your friendship, but also just being that voice, that steady voice of reason that we've needed here for so long here in Western New York. Let's give a round of applause for Congressman Brian Higgins. And our powerhouse senators. First of all, Tim Kennedy. You know what it's like to be the chair of the New York State Senate's Transportation Committee? I was on Long Island yesterday. I'm talking the far end of Long Island. Like, oh, do you know Senator Kennedy? Everybody knows, because they want their roads fixed, Senator. They're coming after you, too. So you think the potholes here need a little help? You should try the Long Island Expressway. And, it's a pretty bumpy ride. So, Senator, thank you. We've worked together for a long time as well, and it's great to have you in that position. And another individual I work with from his local government assembly and now is a senator, Senator Sean Ryan. He has been such a person with a true progressive heart to make sure that we're fighting for the causes that are so important to his constituents, but people all over the state. I want to thank him for his leadership, and that is our Senator Sean Ryan. As I mentioned, County Executive Mark Poloncarz, we have a lot to do. We're working on some other important items these days, and we'll get those over the finish line. Our chairwoman, April Baskin. It's great, April, it's great to see you again. So wonderful to see you in that position. Legislator Howard Johnson's here. Howard, good to see you. He's my own legislator. Darius Pridgeon, who's not just the council president, but he's also my spiritual leader, and I want to thank him for helping me through some tough times in my life. You truly have been there for me as well as the people of this community, and I want to thank all of you. And Ulysses Wingo, City of Buffalo as well. Ulysses, great to have you here. And I want to thank our hosts here. This Science Museum, this is a homecoming for me. I came here as a child. I came here with my own children. They participate in those summer programs where you get to drop your kids off for a week at a time, which for their educational benefit. But this is a wonderful place, and it continues to evolve and just be that place of great stimulation. We're inspiring the minds of so many children and adults just to be in awe of nature's wonders. And I want to thank Marisa Wigglesworth for being the president here for such a long time, and David Bush, the chairman, as well. So thank you for our hosting here. And we never forget our fighters in the community, the people that are on the ground who make things happen by sheer will sometimes. And I'm talking about a woman, Stephanie Jeter, restore our community relations and all of her partners. Unbelievable, Stephanie. Unbelievable. Now you can stop calling me about this one. I know you have other ones, but that's all right. That's right. And unfortunately, just before we came here, we got word that there's a health problem within Mayor Brown's family, someone he needed to attend to. So he would have been here to celebrate this important milestone, this announcement, and we'll certainly see him at many, many, many more opportunities to showcase what we're going to continue doing here in Western New York. So let's talk, and what are we doing here in Western New York? Let's talk about these pictures. I mean, this is snow on the ground. This street even looked beautiful with snow on it. I mean, that is spectacular to see what we had come from, Humboldt Parkway and the great history. And I was reading up an article about the genesis of the whole concept of putting in a massive highway through this beautiful tree-lined home for hundreds and hundreds of Western New Yorkers, people who lived in the city of Buffalo. And at the time, there were a lot of influences going on. First of all, the thought that everyone was going to be driving cars. When this was 1946, they're having these conversations. And yes, we were starting to emerge into an era where people not just had one car, but two cars, and they thought they needed to accommodate these transportation needs. But also they wanted to get people faster out to the suburbs. So when you want to point to a time when the city of Buffalo started declining, it was after it was so easy and so fast for people to flee the city And we didn't keep building back this city during those intervening decades between the late 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and now what we're trying to do is reverse so many of those decisions. They weren't just made here. The thought is these super highways are going to be fantastic, and this is a sign of the future. We're getting people through and out of the cities as fast as we can. But that was so painful, not just for the hundreds of people whose lives were disrupted and turned upside down. I was reading past articles on this, and they said, yes, there was community opposition to it, but they were overshadowed by the politicians and the local media that thought this was the greatest thing that they could have thought. It was to tear down a tree-lined boulevard where there are homes and churches and businesses, and to make it into this infrastructure that we're trying to undo the wrongs of the past. And we've seen opportunities where we've done it right, and that's why I'm so optimistic about this. And I know it can get done because we saw it happen in Rochester. The New York Times did a beautiful story on the evolution of the movement to remove highways all across America, and they showcased Rochester. And what you see now in the site of the former Interloop there was, first of all, they had room to expand the beautiful Strong Museum of Play. If you have not taken your kids there too, after you've seen everything here, go to Rochester. It is gorgeous. It is gorgeous. They had room to expand there. Affordable housing, supportive housing, townhouses, a neighborhood. It is stunning, and it also understood that there could be tremendous pressure for gentrification if you didn't build the affordable housing as part of it immediately. So people who want to live there in beautiful new homes, these are stunning. I walked through the apartments. I saw what was being done, supportive housing for veterans and others who've been identified as places and individuals who need help. We did that in Rochester on the very site where there had been a highway not unlike the one right outside these doors. That's what gives me hope. It's been done before with great success. And we always know that the land downtown is the most valuable. This is where people want to congregate. We know that. People see the possibilities, just as I have, growing up in an area where the people used to say, the last one out of town, turn out the lights. We've come a long way from that attitude. We are optimistic now. We see a better future. And the city, once the highway's gone, they can develop this into a wonderful asset for them. To take something that had just been an eyesore and people just got used to it, never even questioned why it's even there in the first place, something we just accepted. We're no longer just accepting things because they came before. We can't always assume they did it right the first time, as Majority Leader pointed out. So building back a city, it's a multifaceted approach, and there's no examples where the quality of life in a community or neighborhood improved when they put a highway in, but when you remove it, bam, it happens like this. As I mentioned, people congregating, children playing, what we can do with parks and linkages, but also the jobs that are created doing this, critically important as we're coming back after this pandemic, so I'm excited about that aspect of it, as well as just a thought that this place matters. It matters enough, the people matter enough that we're going to reconnect, reunite the neighborhoods. So there's economic, there's psychological benefits, there's environmental benefits that come from removing this asphalt structure, as well as just the social opportunities for interconnection. And that's why when I spoke about infrastructure in my State of the State address and in my budget, I say most people don't get real excited about the words infrastructure, maybe other than guys in the front row over here. That's all they talk about. But to me, infrastructure means connections. And I know this because I worked for 14 years in local government. And I saw what a road could do, or the harm a road could cause depending on how it was placed. I also knew that there were strong needs for water lines, sewer lines, infrastructure. And when you do that, you're taking care of very basic needs. And for so long when I was in local government, we were always saying, Albany, please help us, can you send some money? And it felt like we were always crying to deaf ears. And now I'm in a position to say, I understand local government. Let's let you reimagine your communities with friends and support from Albany. And now, because of what President Joe Biden did, along with people like Brian Higgins and our majority leaders and our senators and others, they got it together and did something that is a generational change. We now have the money to do projects like this because of what happened in Washington with the leadership of the Democrats who voted for this project. And I want to make sure that we give them the credit. And there's going to be so many more projects that now flow to New York because of the infrastructure money that was passed by President Joe Biden. And he believed in this, as well as our members of Congress and our senators, and that's why we can be here today as well. So I don't take that for granted. I do not take, we've waited a long time. I was a young staffer for Senator Moynihan when he was on the Infrastructure Committee. We talked about projects, but the funding was never freed up the way it is in a very impactful way. So that infrastructure, it creates connections, it creates opportunity. So now we all love the word infrastructure, right? Even if you didn't before. That is a very cool word, right? So I'm excited, and I also want to mention someone who's here today who is going to be the architect of all this, the person who gets it done. And if you do not know this other power woman that was referred to earlier, you need to get to know her. This is our incredible DOT commissioner, Marie-Therese Dominguez. And what she has done already, Commissioner Dominguez and I sit in an office sometimes, and we just say, what great things can we do together? Let's reimagine infrastructure and how it can transform people's lives. And I know that other states are envious of the leadership that I'm blessed to have in this commissioner. So let's give a special round of applause to the person who's going to make it all happen, and that is Marie-Therese Dominguez. So I'm going to conclude. I seriously have pages of other Western New York announcements, but I'm going to just tease them out. And we're going to, because I want to have more reasons to keep coming back here, especially when the weather gets a little better. So we have many more projects, and we will be talking about the Outer Harbor. We will be talking about the DL&W terminal. We will be talking about other highways. We'll be talking about major investments on the east side of Buffalo in particular. Large sums of money will come bringing here. But if I tell you all now, I won't be able to come back and have another celebration with all of you, so I'm going to focus on this particular project. But today I'm announcing we are making good on the promise I've just made to all of you, and that is that the environmental impact study will begin immediately. And when I say immediately, it begins immediately. So that is what we're doing here today. Proud to have everybody here. Let me bring up Mr. Transportation himself, Senator Tim Kennedy. On. Got double up. Always proud to wear this mask too. And I will close by saying, Patrick Holmes, you've got nothing on Josh Allen. You are in trouble, my friend. I don't mind trash talking you every day of the week because we're going to take you down.
Go Bills is right, Governor. Thank you so much, Governor Hochul. How about another round of applause for Governor Kathy Hochul? I don't know where do I begin, Governor. I am just so honored to be in your presence here. This is a homecoming for the governor here today in Buffalo. Such a long time coming. I have so many wonderful things to say about our governor, and I would be remiss if I just didn't say a number of them, because we are traveling all around the state, and we're dealing with transportation issues all around the state. And no matter where I go, people say to me, Governor Hochul is incredible. She's amazing. She's making all the right decisions. I can't believe what leadership, real leadership looks like. She's providing that real leadership. And you know what I say to them? You're learning what we've known for a long time. Governor Kathy Hochul, thank you for everything that you're doing all across New York State. It is brilliant to see the eyes that you're opening, the hearts that you're opening, the impact that you're having. And right out of the gate, in a very short period of time, Governor Hochul is demonstrating to the state of New York and to the nation who are all watching what it means to lead. Thank you. It's really an honor to work with you. And welcome home. Welcome back to Buffalo. This issue has been a very important issue for you personally, for our community, for many years. For generations, unfortunately, our community has suffered because of the impact of bad decisions of the past. Today we're here under Governor Hochul's leadership to rectify those bad decisions, to make good on Governor Hochul's promise to reimagine, to reinvigorate our communities all across New York State. And, you know, again, as the governor mentioned, as transportation chair, I move around the state. I too was in Manhattan last night, Governor. I was with law enforcement at the Irish Echo Law Enforcement Award ceremony, introducing the PBA president, Tom Mungier, as the leader of 2022, and with many law enforcement officials from across the city of New York. And our heart breaks, Governor, for the tragedy that ensued down in the city of New York, where one officer was killed, another critically injured, and our hearts and our prayers are with them and their families today. I will tell you, law enforcement knows that they have a partner in Governor Hochul. They were talking about it last night. Tom Mungier said, what a difference Governor Hochul is making. She's investing in law enforcement. She's investing in our communities. She's helping our communities take our communities back. So Governor Hochul, thank you again. And as it pertains to this issue today, while we're here, Governor Hochul is moving this important issue forward. Not long ago, we stood right here, Congressman Higgins, Mayor Brown, Majority Leader Peoples-Stokes, and I, and our other colleagues in government, calling for this exact initiative that Governor Hochul announced today to take place. Moving this project forward, the EIS, the investment in an environmental impact study that will allow this project once and for all to move forward. Without the EIS, this project is stalled. And unfortunately, for years it has been. Governor Hochul has made this project, the 33, reconnecting the east side of Buffalo, her priority. It is our community's priority. And today, with Governor Hochul's announcement, this priority is moving forward. As chair of the Senate Transportation Committee and the senator representing this community, it's music to my ears. And we've worked aggressively with the federal partners, Congressman Higgins and others, to streamline this environmental review process with the Federal Highway Administration. Because when federal and state money becomes available for projects like this, we have to be ready to put shovels in the ground. And anyone who lives in this community understands just how deeply this issue impacts it. When we're talking about the issue of the 33, we're talking about reconnecting neighborhoods that have been fractured by historical injustices and poor planning. We're talking about bringing property values up for longtime homeowners and businesses back to life that have been decimated by the creation of this roadway. And perhaps most importantly, we're talking about the health and well-being of the community directly impacted by this eyesore, finally putting an end to the respiratory illnesses that have plagued residents close to the 33 due to high-volume traffic. It's an economic issue, it's an environmental issue, it's a quality of life issue. And I'd be remiss if I didn't specifically recognize Stephanie Barber Jeter, the chair of ROC, and Karen Stanley Fleming, the coalition's executive director, and the members of the Restore Our Community Coalition who have worked together for so many years with these amazing women leaders. These women have been championing this project, words that don't even give it justice. The only way to truly explain their dedication, their perseverance, their passion for this project is to look around and see where we are today. This progress, this moment here today with Governor Hochul says it all. And I thank the coalition, I thank these extraordinary women for your leadership. And you know what? Our community was listening. Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes was listening. Governor Hochul was listening. Congressman Higgins was listening. Our county executive, our chairwoman, our legislators, our council members, our council president, our senators, our mayor, we were listening. and we've been standing shoulder to shoulder to make sure that this issue with the Restore Our Community Coalition finally takes root. So as Rock says it best, we must reimagine, redesign, and reignite. And so today, with this news that Governor Hochul announces here today, we're doing just that. And I am so proud to stand here with you and to make this announcement. It is my honor and distinct privilege to announce and to invite our colleague, our leader at the federal level who has fought tooth and nail for many, many years to get projects like this moving forward, to get funding for projects like this in the pipeline. When the federal government was stalling on infrastructure, it was Congressman Higgins leading the way, talking about trillions of dollars. Finally, we got that movement because of his leadership. It's my honor and privilege to bring up our friend, our leader, Congressman Brian Higgins.
Tim told me I had to get it all in. He did. I just want to let you know, I dressed to be outside, unlike the rest of you. Governor Kathy Hochul, our friend, we are so proud of what you have done under difficult circumstances in a very short period of time. It is incredible. I always say you're motivated by big challenges, and you're inspired by good people, Stephanie and so many other people from this community, and good ideas like this one here. If you look at the historical record about the Olmsted Park system, Frederick Law Olmsted, long before he was a landscape architect, was a public health worker in the Civil War. And he believed that there was a philosophical role to parks. He believed in the healing power of parks. And when he came to Buffalo in 1868, we were at the end of a pandemic. It was cholera, a waterborne gastrointestinal disease that killed thousands of Western New Yorkers. So city leaders said, you know, post-pandemic, we have to do something that's more ambitious. Let's not build a park. Let's build a park system. The Olmsted Park system. 850 acres. More acres than Central Park in New York City, which he also co-designed. But the interesting thing about the Olmsted Park system is that there are no gates, there are no fences, and there are no walls. And that is deliberate, because Olmsted said that if the parks weren't available to everybody, they didn't really mean anything to anybody. So the Olmsted Park system is 6 parks, 6 beautiful parks, but 7 parkways in 8 traffic circles to make those parkways more functional and more accessible to more people. And if you look at the historical record of the 7 parkways, there's an asterisk next to Humboldt Park with one word: lost. Look at that beautiful parkway, taken from the people of this community. And when you look at what we learned in the pandemic, the fragility of American society and the American economy, the inequality, the lack of social justice, this, the vision of Stephanie and so many others, and Crystal, energized by the get-it-done attitude of our governor, our new governor, is an extraordinary day. If these expressways were not designed by Robert Moses, they were influenced by Robert Moses. Didn't care about anything the governor had mentioned earlier. It was about the transfer of wealth from the city to the suburbs. The community be damned. You took away this to create that? No more. Not under Governor Hochul. Not under Governor Hochul. She is committed to this. She's committed to this community, and she is committed to righting the historical wrongs that have been done to this community. So this is an extraordinary gift, and by a governor, again, motivated by big challenges, inspired by good people and good ideas. This is a damn good idea. Thank you. My pleasure to present to you State Senator Sean Ryan.
So happy to be here this morning. How long have we been talking about fixing the Kensington? How long have we been talking about fixing the Skajakwada? How long have we been saying, why'd they do that? So Congressman Higgins lays out a compelling history lesson, but our history is important. We had beautiful parkways. And what did our parkways do? They connected our neighborhoods. Delaware Park to MLK Park, a quick walk or a bike ride. What do we have now? Highways that divide us. And we all know that the transportation policies of the 50s and the 60s were designed. And they were designed to create and to enforce segregatory housing boundaries. And those boundaries persist today. And history matters. So on the west side, we kept our parkways, Chapin, Lincoln, Bidwell. When the pandemic occurred, just like Olmsted had planned, our parkways were crowded. It gave people a respite. You can get out of your house. But what did the people have on the east side? Did they have this? No, they had this as their respite. And it's a historic wrong, and I'm so happy to hear that we're taking the steps to fix those historic wrongs. And it always affects us. You think that, oh, this is just the way it is, everyone's used to it. I was over in the Trinidad neighborhood not long ago. Ellen Harris lives over there. She came out and said, anytime she tries to get something delivered to her house, Orville's calls and says, I don't know how to get to your house. I don't know how to get back in there. Clifford Bell came out. Remember Clifford Bell? Clifford Bell remembers when his kids were little, he'd give them the quarter and send them across the street to go to Hamlin Park to get the store to buy ice cream. You're not getting to Hamlin Park now if you live in Trinidad. So these are historic wrongs that we're fixing. And this is where I compliment Governor Hochul. We know she's tenacious. We know she has grit, but she also has an intellectual honesty. Governors that came before, they didn't want to tackle these problems because they're too hard to fix. But we know that we can't build the new Buffalo that we want unless we tackle these problems and we get it done right. And that's why I have tremendous faith and tremendous confidence that we're going to get it done right because of the leadership of Governor Hochul. Thank you, Governor Hochul, for addressing these problems, and you're addressing them in Rochester and in Syracuse and Albany. Because guess what? These transportation policies that rip Buffalo apart, that made us a segregated city, they're in all those cities too. So we're going to take these highways down and we're going to change them one city at a time, and we're going to have a city that's reunited and a one Buffalo. And maybe at the end of it, a kid from MLK will be able to get on his or her bike, ride over to Delaware Park, and a kid from Parkside will be able to get on their bike and ride over. And wouldn't that be a beautiful thing for the city of Buffalo? So thank you to everyone who's been working on this issue for a super long time. So my job is to introduce county executive and to get off the highways for a second, but just to talk about leadership during the pandemic. County executive has provided consistent on-the-ground leadership for the last few years. I mean, I think of how hard my job has been, but I'm not the one who has to interact directly with the people, the health department. I'm not the one getting roasted on AM radio. I'm not the one getting death threats. I'm not the one having anti-Semitic attacks on your administration. So I thank you for your tenacity and getting up every morning to keep facing the pandemic, not lying to the people, not telling people it'll be all okay, but telling the hard truth. So it's my pleasure to introduce County Executive Mark Poloncarz.
Thank you, Senator Ryan. I really do appreciate those comments, but those are some of the same comments I was going to say about Governor Hochul, because even before she was governor, she was in the trenches working with all of us in Western New York to address the issues associated with the pandemic. And since becoming governor, she's made the difficult decisions. They're not agreed to by all, but that's what leadership is. Leadership is making the decision that's right for the greater community, not just because everyone's going to agree. But this is one where everyone's going to agree, because everyone in our community, all of our elected officials, all of those who fought for years understand the impact that the destruction of Humboldt Parkway had on an entire community. So thank you, Governor, for first of all making those very difficult decisions, which in the end aren't difficult, but they're the right decisions for our community when it comes to fighting COVID across New York State, but for putting your money where people's mouths have been in the past to actually invest to ensure that we can restore this to this. I look at these photos. That could be McKinley Parkway in South Buffalo. That could be Chapin Parkway in the Elmwood Village. Can you imagine what would happen today if an elected official publicly came out and said, we're going to put a superhighway right through your neighborhood? You would not be an elected official the next time you ran for office. That's the difference between then and now. And I want to thank the governor and everyone who's fought for so long to get to this point. This will not be an easy project to do because of the cost associated, but it will be the right project to do for the impact it will have on the greater community. So to each and every one for years who've been fighting for this, on behalf of myself, thank you. This will create a better Buffalo. This will create a better Erie County. And we can all be proud of it. Sometimes you look back on careers and you think about, what did I do that had an impact on the greater community? A legacy project. This will be a legacy project for everyone in our community, and something when our careers are over with, thank you, something when our careers are over with, we can look back and say, this was done on my watch. And to all of those who fought to make this day happen, it's just the start, but it's not the end, and it is going to be a much better place when we restore Humboldt Parkway to this, from that, something we can all be proud of. With that, I thank each and every one of you for coming here today, and I can't leave the podium without saying, go Bills, crush the Chiefs. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Thank you, Governor.